So Dylan, big news and a bit of a red glare curse. We've had the deep dive curse with our Kraken podcast in the past. This one, the news drops right after we finished recording our full length red glare episode. But I think this one is big enough. It deserves an emergency episode because I've got so much I want to talk to you about with this. As the Vegas Golden Knights fire their head coach Bruce Cassidy, bring in John Tortorella to replace him with 8 games remaining in the regular season. I mean, this is one of the latest coach firings that we've seen. I remember we looked at this for a previous Red Glare
Yeah.
episode after the last one that we saw with the Kings. This one significantly later. It's not the latest,
Mhm.
but it is almost unprecedented.
Yeah, it really is. This was surprising in most ways, but maybe not all the way. Because literally the day before, and like this is what's kind of so crazy, and this has happened a lot with Kraken stuff in the past, but it felt like this was the first time in a while that this has happened for us with something for another team. You and I were literally just talking about the day prior that it felt like they were kind of due for a coaching change. Vegas has not looked like themselves. They haven't looked confident. The team looks a little bit lost out there on the ice right now. You look at guys like Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, and they just look like, I'm either doing everything that I can be doing and it's not working, or I don't know what I should be doing in this spot, right? It feels like it's evolved past just them having goaltending issues, which is what most of this season looked like. And so you and I were talking about how it felt like it was probably time for a coaching change for Vegas. Bruce Cassidy's been there for several years now. They haven't repeated the playoff success from that first year when they won the Stanley Cup, really. And it just felt like, look, he's one of those coaches that kind of wears out his welcome. It feels like he's maybe losing the room. Maybe they make a coaching change this offseason. And instead, they just make one the next day. And look, I understand why they did it for all those reasons I just said. Vegas has really struggled here as of late, and the players look a little lost out there. It looks like a team that has kind of given up on their coach. And so I understand Vegas being like, look, that's a bad situation to be in. That we're too on the bubble playoff wise to really let it go on. And so they went ahead and they made the gutsy call to make a change. Most teams never gonna do that, right? Like, especially because they are still in a playoff spot. Like, it's not like, oh, they're just trying to get there the way LA was when they made their move, or even Columbus back in January when they made their move. It's pretty unprecedented in that sense for a playoff team to be like, yeah, we're going to make a change. But look, they obviously felt like it was needed, and frankly, the way the team has been playing, it was.
Yeah, and I think the front office sensed some real danger there and potentially missing the playoffs. I think a lot of the models still say that they're at, roughly 90% to make it. They're not in huge danger, but they've won 4 out of their last 16 games. That's rough.
Mhm.
That's not good enough. And this move is peak Vegas Golden Knights. Like, this is what they do. They demand excellence in every phase of the organization all the time. And if you're short of that at all, you're gone. And you don't get the rest of the season to try and turn it around with 8 games to go. Even if you're the coach that's delivered the team the Stanley Cup, this is such a Golden Knights move, and I see why they did it. Like, it makes sense to me. My question, though, as far as like looking into will this work, is, I guess, one, diagnosing the problem,
Mhm.
because I don't know. And I've seen people that I really respect, like, Ken Bolke, Sinbin.Vegas, he's a friend of mine, and I know he doesn't like this move. And one of the main things he said, to start off his video about it was that, like, you're looking at all this and you're saying it's the coach's fault. You're saying it's his fault, and that all these problems, they're on him and he's the reason. And I don't even know that they're saying that. I don't think that's what they're saying in doing this. This is just the one lever they can pull,
Right.
because look, you look at the problems, and I think like Jay Fresh put a good tweet out there yesterday talking about, since the Olympic break, Vegas ranks third in the NHL in like 5-on-5 expected goal share, shot attempt share. So like they're controlling possession generally. They've allowed the fewest shots against per 60, the third fewest expected goals against. So at least on paper, the defense is good, but they are last in shooting percentage, shooting 6.8%,
Oh.
and second to last in save percentage, 869 save percentage. Like those are things that usually we use as proxies for luck, right? You're just getting really unlucky finishing and you cannot get a save from your goaltenders to save your lives. Like that's what appears to be the problem. Now, can a new coach fix that? Like, can a new coach get you more saves or get the players to just have the puck go in more? Like, that's not usually what you look at as the solution, but it's too late to go and get more scorers. It's past the trade deadline. It's too late to go get another goalie. This is kind of the only thing you can do if you are Vegas.
It is. And look, if it is just a matter of guys just need a little bit of an emotional boost and that just makes that tiny bit of difference for them to maybe start scoring or just for this momentum to kind of shift in a different direction, then it is going to be a good move for them because quite frankly, right, John Tortorella is who's brought in to replace Bruce Cassidy only for the rest of this year, however long that is for Vegas. It is not a long-term deal. No, he's not gonna come in and install new systems, right? Like, you
No, I mean
can't.
he just had his first presser day, and he said, "I'm not going to change much because there's such a short runway." It's
Yeah,
basically the mindset that needs to change, is what he was saying.
right, and I think that that is true. Like, it looked like a bunch of guys that were kind of emotionally checked out or frustrated, and if, that being in that mindset can lead to a death spiral, which it feels like it is here for Vegas and it has been for Vegas. And so just bringing in somebody else that is going to just kind of reframe what they're going through and reframe how they come back to the bench and everything, it very well could do a lot of good for this team. In addition to just the fact that, look, they have skilled players. They're not going to be shooting at 6 something percent for very long, right? Like that is going to regress in a positive way for them. So I think this could do a lot for them. Yes, the goaltending is still going to be a problem. That has been a problem all year. John Tortorella is not going to fix that, right? Like he's going to have zero power to fix that. But I do think he's going to help just the emotional state of everybody there and be able to drag them out of this, death spiral that they're in with only 4 wins since the Olympic break. Like that is a really bad spot to find yourself in. And if that locker room, just the vibe is that poor, John Tortorella will be able to get them out of that.
No, what do you think about them going with Tortorella specifically? Because I think, look, Bruce Cassidy, we know he's one of those coaches that can maybe wear on his players after a while. He drives his players pretty hard, and that's part of why he has a lot of success. But then to replace him with a coach like John Tortorella, who definitely drives his players very hard. Usually, when you see a coaching change like that, you kind of go with the opposite of the guy you just had. You'll go with like a players coach who's a little friendlier to the guys, and they're more motivated to play for him because he's nicer, right? You're going in the opposite direction if you're Vegas, which again just feels like a very Vegas thing to do. Just whip these guys into shape type of thing. Like, what do you think about the decision to go in that direction, like Tortorella specifically? Because I imagine, like, if Bruce Cassidy is like too much for you as a player, just as far as a tough coach, Tortorella is not going to be any better.
Potentially, like Tortorella does have a soft side. Like him away from the ice, he is a softie kind of, right? Like, or at least he's a very personable, nice guy. Because I've had the opportunity to meet him a couple times, and he's very much that way off the ice. And I do think he knows what he's walking into and what the issue is. I mean, certainly better than you and I are going to from afar, right? And I think he'll be able to walk in there, and while he'll be demanding of like the level of effort and stuff that the players need to have out there on the ice, and to a lesser extent the execution and all of that kind of stuff, I think again just having a different voice back there, somebody with a different perspective who's going to frame things differently, should be enough of a breath of fresh air for this group that I think it's going to enact positive change. I think he understands how late in the season it is and what position this team is in. And if you're him, also, you have no expectations beyond this year. Like, how hard do you have to come in and start riding these guys? Like, you don't ultimately, like, it doesn't matter that much for you, right? Like, so you have nothing to lose if you're John Tortorella. So I don't know that he has to come in full on the way that, he was, say, in Philadelphia towards the end there, where he was really getting on guys. Because in part, that was also a roster he had a hand in helping construct, and there was a lot more going on. I think for this, he's going to come in and just try to steer the ship through these difficult waters that they're in right now. I don't think there's going to be too much more than that.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do. And he kind of alluded to that when he was talking to the media today. What an opportunity for
Yeah.
John Tortorella. I didn't think he was going to get another chance in the NHL. I
No.
figured he was probably done. Imagine getting that phone call that you're going to have an opportunity with 8 games to go to basically just kind of pick up where Bruce Cassidy and the Golden Knights left off in a playoff spot. And really, your only job is to just somehow change the vibe enough that your team starts getting good goaltending and scoring on their chances. Like, there's not a whole lot else you can do, but this is your opportunity. And you know what? If you succeed, if you win a playoff round, it might not be with the Golden Knights, coming back, but you might get another shot in the NHL if you want one, because everybody's going to have their eyes on you. Everyone's going to be looking at John Tortorella and what he does with this team. Worst case, it goes bad, and you could totally make the case if you're Torts too. Just like, look, there was 8 games left. What could I do? Like,
Right.
there's no downside, right? You have every excuse if this doesn't go well, but just great opportunity for him, and I can't wait to see how he handles it. It's going to be entertaining for sure.
It definitely will be. I mean, it is only a potential positive for his legacy, right? Like
Oh
there
yeah.
is no downside for his legacy. And if he is able to take this team on a bit of a run, and quite frankly, look, if they are able to get into the postseason, this division is terrible. They still are a good roster. Like it is conceivable that you could win a round or two, even, right? If the goaltending just figures it out enough and your guys start scoring, this team could easily get to the Western Conference final out of this division. Because if you had to play, say, Edmonton round one, you take care of them. You're probably going to take care of the Ducks in round two, right? A young, inexperienced team, or Utah if they upset the Ducks, right? Like you could definitely beat them in a playoff series. So all of a sudden, if he's able to get them to say the Western Conference Finals or more, I doubt more, but potentially more. Like
That
that,
feels
that's a
like the
huge.
limit for the
It
Pacific, whichever
does.
team gets there. Yeah.
It does. That's a huge thing for a guy who, look, yes, he's won a Stanley Cup as a coach, but that was in 2004. It was 22 years ago now and hasn't really had a lot of playoff success since then, right? And I think that that has really been for a lot of fans, right? Certainly fans our age and younger. That's really been his legacy, is just him kind of slowly becoming out of touch with the modern player. And everybody says he's a good coach, but then I watch him and his team gets bounced in the first or second round, or really at the end there wasn't even making the playoffs at all. If he's able to go on a run here, it would go a long way for his legacy, proving that he still was good enough and he still had that in him.
Right. I mean, the storyline with him for the last long while has been he's the coach you bring in when your team is not clearly not good enough, probably needs to rebuild, but you don't want to rebuild. And he's going to get that team to be like right around the playoff bubble. And then you'll see what happens from there. But if he can cement himself here as the coach that maybe can get a competitive team to overperform and win a couple playoff rounds and be a little better, there's a lot of demand, I think, for a coach like that. And if he can change the narrative, that's huge for him. Yeah, deserved or not,
Right.
that's it's going to be huge for him. Now, as far as like the Golden Knights getting rid of Bruce Cassidy and making this change, I know you don't have as much issue with that, but like I think we got to ask, because this is the big shocking element of it is like, look, most teams wouldn't do this.
Mhm.
This is very different behavior than just about anybody else, but it's very Golden Knights and it's very ruthless. And I think it's worth asking, like, is this just their normal genius but ruthless style where you're willing to kind of throw anyone away for success? Or have they gone a little too far here and they've kind of lost the plot here and they've maybe been unfair to a coach that did end up bringing them the only
Mhm.
Stanley Cup in franchise history?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one to see how it plays out. I think ultimately it's gonna work out for them, and so it will be seen as kind of the right call in a big brain sense. But yes, this has the ability to go like galaxy brain meme levels bad for them if it does go poorly. Like if you continue to not get the goaltending, if your shooters continue to be in a slump, and anybody else in the Pacific Division wakes up, you could find yourself on the outs pretty quick here if you're Vegas. That is a lot that has to happen. I mean, especially that third point is a lot to be asking. But I think that there is runway for this to end up really poor for them. I just generally think, look, this is how Vegas operates. It has brought them a Stanley Cup. It's brought them plenty of other, long playoff runs and plenty of success. I just think that this is who they are. It's in their DNA to work this way, and everybody in and around the team understands that. And it's never gone totally wrong for them before, so I understand why they would go ahead and take this gamble now.
Yeah, and really, I don't even think there's that much of a downside. Of course, the downside would be like you lose all 8 remaining
Yeah.
games, you fall out of a playoff spot, that sort of thing. But look, I think realistically, what you were on track for if you kept Bruce Cassidy was probably a first round exit, maybe a second round playoff exit at best. And to them, it's Stanley Cup or bust. And I
Mhm.
love that mindset from Vegas. Like a first round exit is the exact same thing as flaming out and missing the playoffs this year. Like that makes no difference to them. And so, like, honestly, I got to give credit to Vegas because so many teams, especially this season, have just kind of sit idly by watching their season go down the drain. And I know, like, maybe, Winnipeg, one of those that we talk about that, maybe they have a chance now because everyone else is so bad, but like they didn't make a coaching change. There are other teams that just didn't make a LA waited way too long to make a coaching change. They're basically done. I got to respect Vegas not waiting until it's too late and making a change. And I know I certainly don't agree with everything they've done. They've done a lot of, kind of classless things in the organization's history, but this isn't one that I think, rises to that level. And I think there's just so little downside. If this doesn't work out, you just go get a new coach in the summer. And that's the key part of it. Is Tortorella, this agreement is only just for the rest of the season, for 8 games plus playoffs. You can go get a new coach in the summer and you're really no worse off than you would have been. And so I just think there's very little downside to it. Now, last question for you, though, that I have for you, Dylan, is does this signal, though, that the front office is on the hot seat? Like, because this feels like a panic move that maybe if you had, if you have a first round exit, if you flame out here, that maybe the GM Kelly McCrimmon feels like he might not be back.
I do wonder about that as well, because look, it would make sense. I mean, a lot of what this team's problem is this year, to an extent, it was the coaching, but it is roster construction based problems, right? The fact that you don't have a goalie that can give you a save, right? That you have a team quality start percentage, a team percentage here, and this is 4 goaltenders who have all started at least 8 games or more for you, and your team quality start percentage is 338, right? Like that shows like an organizational failure to find a goalie who can just give you league average goaltending, right? Like that's a huge problem and that would be on the general manager. And I think look, this is an organization that has given Kelly McCrimmon all of the resources he could ever ask for to put together a team. He has won a Stanley Cup for them, but it has been a minute and things have been really rocky these last couple of years, right? Since the Stanley Cup win, it has been pretty rocky. And I think that if the expectations there are high, they should be high. They should be high with the majority of this roster anyway. But you look at how much they are spending on their top performers, and it hasn't been enough. You look at the goaltending situation, and it's definitely not enough. Yeah, I think there has to be some worry if you're a member of the front office, and certainly if you're Kelly McCrimmon, that maybe, you know, look, my job could be in trouble if we don't do something here, or at the very least, if I'm not moved on from this off season, it means going into next year, it's like do or die. Western Conference Finals or better, probably.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think rightfully, like that, you got to look at the roster construction, look at the goaltending situation. That's one you leaned into. You signed Aiden
Hmm.
Hill to a long term
Yep.
contract. You brought in Carter Hart at much risk of negative PR after he hadn't played in a long time. And he certainly looked like he hasn't played in a long time. Like this is a goaltending situation you've leaned into. You made big changes on the blue line and brought in kind of more offensively minded guys that
Hmm.
maybe aren't what fits a Cassidy system. So that didn't make a whole lot of sense. I think you definitely, because you have to ask with any of these, is a problem of construction, coaching, or sometimes just bad luck. I think you can make cases for all three because still a team with Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, Mark Stone, like they should be performing better than what this team is
Yeah.
doing, no question. So you can point fingers a lot of different ways. But one thing we know about Vegas is that nobody is immune from that accountability. Got to think that includes the front office. Got to think they're probably feeling that right now because the owner, Bill Foley, he's not going to accept anything less than being a real cup contender every single year.
Definitely, definitely. So, I don't know. I'm just excited to see how things shake out over these last 8 games. Excited to see Torts back there and kind of what energy he brings. And again, I think he'll come in and he'll try to be firm but understanding. But does that last past their first loss? We'll see.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's a win for all of us who just get to watch the situation, see how it unfolds. It's going to be so entertaining.
Definitely. So, yeah, excited to watch it for sure. That's going to do it for this. Thanks for watching.